Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete for Anxiety here, the mental health podcast, breaking the stigma that mental health is talked about in. Welcome in today's episode. Before we get started today, we need to cover a few things really quick. Let's talk about the Pete for Anxiety Patreon first off. It's only $1, guys. $1. What does $1 get you? $1 gets you into the exclusive episodes I am recording currently. I'm actually focusing on certain different diagnoses of things to show you guys what it actually looks like as it manifests in a person. So why not for $1, judges? Yeah, they said $1. I just checked with them too. See, they said it was okay. It was $1 anyways. Let's also talk about the Oracle Talk Radio Networks app. In case you can't be here live listening to me, watching this video, supporting the show, you can listen to it on the radio app. Why not? It connects us live to our 365 radio. Just go to your app stores and download the Oracle Talk Radio Network. You'll see the big old Oracle Talk Radio Network app logo right on there. Download it. It'll connect you to me, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, to Pete for Anxiety when I'm live doing my thing right here, informing the world and raising mental health awareness. So where are you going to be? 10 a.m. Of course. Come on. We just talked about this. Pay attention for once. Damn. Do y'all know how to listen? And as always, guys, like, follow, and share the YouTube channel. If you guys like what you're seeing, leave some comments, man. We want to know. I want to know if you like what you're on. You want to be on the show? Let me know. Hit me up at PeteVersusAnxietyPod@gmail.com. And as always, guys, enjoy the show. And by the way, did I mention to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well? Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure because some of y'all are hard of hearing in the back, may have to yell loud or get a megaphone or something. But, anyways, let's get today's show started. Y'all have a great one. Enjoy. Guys, welcome into another exciting episode of Pete versus Anxiety, the mental health podcast breaking the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. My guest today is the curator of the Rapid Alignment Therapy, Miss Anastasia Gerali. How you doing?
I'm very well, and you? Thanks, Pete.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you being here today. So do you want to give everybody a little background about yourself so that we can get to know you a little better?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm really excited about being on this particular podcast because of your mission. So my name's Anastasia Gerali. I am an alignment therapist and a soul path psycho-spiritual coach. I work with people to help them to clarify what their soul path is and then live in alignment with that professionally and personally. One of the reasons that I'm really passionate about the work that I do is because I myself was diagnosed with bipolar at quite a young age, and life has been a roller coaster. From divorce to depression to bankruptcy to wanting to end my life, I have gone through all the waves and all the dark nights of the souls, and it all led me to the incredible work which I do today, which I'm so passionate about sharing with other teachers, healers, coaches, and therapists as well, so that we can create this massive ripple effect of alignment in our communities.
Awesome. So let me ask you a question though. So you said you've been through it all. Do you feel like these different events led you on the path to get to here? Do you think it was just a test to get there, basically?
Mm. That's an interesting way to phrase the question, because it's a little bit like asking what came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah, true.
I
True.
think
Good point.
I
Good
think
point.
in this conundrum, if I hadn't struggled as much as I had, I probably wouldn't have needed to seek alternative therapies or alternative ways of living. I think I would have just coasted through life, continuing to struggle and continuing to crash and burn. And it's really because of those pivotal moments that I think I found that there was an opportunity there to live better, to do better, to try a different model for life.
Yeah, yeah, and I get that. Because it's interesting to hear that you were diagnosed at such an early age. I know a lot of times when it comes to that, a lot of people are misdiagnosed, and sometimes it gets kind of mixed up with borderline personality disorder a little bit too. I hear a lot of people say it as well. So I mean, it's interesting to hear though that they got it such right on right away, because a lot of times people don't get things diagnosed right away, or when they're kids they don't understand a lot of stuff, and a lot of parents don't know what to look for. So you want to give somebody a little bit of rundown what it's like having what it's like having it, basically?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it was actually a therapist in my early 20s that
Oh, okay.
suggested that I have bipolar. Obviously, I stopped going to her because I didn't like what she said. And I went through life navigating myself. and diagnosing myself with depression, because that's what I thought it was. I thought
Yeah.
I was depressed, and it wasn't until just a few years ago in my mid 30s that I again was misdiagnosed with depression. I was given Zoloft, which only made everything much, much worse for me and made the suicidal ideation so much more appealing than anything else before. And it wasn't until recently again that I received a second opinion that was in coherence with that very first one in my early 20s. So I would say for like 20 years, I've been coasting and I've been trying to navigate it on my own, thinking that I was depressed. I
Yeah.
don't know I don't know what it's like to not be this way.
Yeah.
So for me, everything is extremes, extreme highs, extreme lows. And
Yeah.
you can very much see how that has affected other areas of my life. In relationships, everything has been extremes. My finances has been extremes. So I I would say that it's a very tiresome journey, and the
Yeah.
older that you get, the more tiresome it is to keep repeating certain patterns. And it's not until you can see those patterns and acknowledge those patterns and take accountability for those patterns that you can say, "Hang on, this pattern isn't serving me anymore. I need to find a better way of navigating life, a better way of managing my finances, a better way of managing my relationships." And that's what led me to the work that I do now, which is, as I call it, psycho-spiritual
Mm-hmm.
therapy. And it is rooted in psychology as well as spirituality. It has a very, very deep root in faith, because that's your North Star. You
Yeah.
need to know where you're navigating towards, and you need to give purpose to your pain as well in order to transform it. Otherwise, you'll just stay in that victim archetype where everything is happening to you.
Yeah, yeah, I get that completely. And you know, a lot of times these days, that's what I'm hearing spirituality a lot going on these days. Like a lot of people, that's what they're moving towards, or a lot of them, it's the other ones are more. God, what is the other thing I'm thinking of? There's another thing I'm thinking of. Can't think of the other thing, but a lot of people, a lot of times, like spiritual comes up a lot lately. Like holistic is another one that comes up a lot of times now. Energy is another one that comes up as well, and these are all new things for a lot of people that don't understand those kind of things. And a lot of people, I know, faith scares them, because at first faith scared me, because I wasn't too sure about it, because the way I was introduced to it, people like force fed it to you, and a lot of times people don't like things being fed to them like that. You can't force somebody to do something. It's just like somebody's addicted. You can't force somebody to want to get some help if they're addicted. They have to want to get help themselves. And I think it's great. A lot of people are involving different things versus just traditional therapy, and there's like trying to cram pills in people and things like that. I think that the alternative routes are a lot better, because like you said, when you started taking those drugs, they start giving those suicidal ideations and things like that. It started coming up, and it
Mm.
intensified it. And it's the same thing. My guest yesterday said the same thing too. She said that she was having the same problem, that the drugs were just amplifying these things, and all these different side effects were coming through. And it's crazy, because when you start taking these drugs, then it's like, oh, well, I got to give another one and take those too. And it's
Yeah,
like, how many pills can we stack up on top,
yeah.
Anastasia or Pete, until they start going little kind of loopy here with all these different, symptoms we're creating?
And it's exactly that. I mean, the antidepressant pills create anxiety. So then they suggested another pill for anxiety, another pill for insomnia, and it was like, hang on, my body is saying no to this. My spirit is saying no to this. So I
Yeah.
can either bypass that and take the drugs and numb myself to this
Yeah.
human experience, or I can pay attention.
Yeah.
And in my case, I'm really quite grateful that I do have a relationship with a higher power. And I got that download that this isn't the formula. This isn't the
Yeah.
formula that's going to help you. This isn't the formula that's going to save you. There's a different formula. And I am a little bit of an anarchist. So I was like, I don't want the drugs,
Yeah.
I'll do
Yeah.
everything else. And I did. I did the whole plant medicine routine. I did everything. And it was like, no, I don't need anything outside of me, because my body's wisdom is superior to all these external influences. If I just sit still enough to listen to the guidance and then to reach out and get the right type of help, it will lead me back to myself. And that's ultimately where we're all trying to get to. We're all trying to get back home to us.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. So so basically, how is yours different than normal, like, say traditional therapy? You want to give people a little bit of contrast so they have an idea of what practices and things you use differently versus what people would traditionally see?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say something that's a little bit controversial. I
Go
don't
right ahead.
think traditional therapy is sufficient enough because it
Hmm.
keeps us in a mental world, right? It keeps us very much in the logical, in the reasonable. And all we're doing is going around and around talking about things, trying to understand them more on a mental level. But emotions live on a physical, on a somatic level. And that's the part that we need to reconnect to. That's the part that we need to feel in order to heal. So, my methodology, alignment therapy, is essentially two types of sessions. And the
Hmm.
one is the conscious reprogramming. So, it's a form of hypnotherapy and NLP, for example. And that helps us to really bypass all the logic, all the reason that is keeping us in this little thought loop so that we can get into the root cause of the issue, into the root cause of the pattern or the trauma that keeps repeating itself. So we're working on a mental and an emotional level there. And then the second half of the session, or the second half of the practice, is neurodynamic breath work. So that's where we really come back into the body, where we are living, where everything is stored. We already know that the body keeps the score. The body has a memory of its own. So if you can access those memories and you can access those stored experiences in your body, then you can move them and shift them and release them so that we don't need to manifest things on a chronic body level as well, because whatever is not dealt with mentally, emotionally, and somatically will eventually manifest in the body as chronic disease, sickness, ailments.
Yeah, and hypnotherapy is another thing that gets brought up a lot lately too. Like, I am going to do quantum healing. I had a guest that was on my Patreon episode that me and her were talking about it, and she was talking about how, basically what quantum healing was. It's like it's a hypnosis state, except she says it breaks through the frontal wall and goes deep inside, and they start asking you questions, and then yourself responds to these questions. And the only thing she did say that kind of threw me off a little bit, she was like, "Well, don't if it's not don't work for you, don't say something negative." I'm like, "Listen, first off, I'm signing up for this. I'm going to give you an honest opinion. I'm going to tell you, like, listen, this is what I experienced. Don't take it as anything negative. This is exactly what I dealt with, kind of things like that." And I'm so fascinated by it too, because I start hearing all these new things. I'm like, man, now I gotta go try this. Like I'll subject myself to be the guinea pig here. I'm like, let me sign up. I'll be the first one in charge. Jump in line. Let's go. So that's going to be something new I haven't tried. It's about a 2 hour long session, she said, and then like I said, I'm kind of curious to see what I'll find out though, because a lot of stuff is deep in your subconscious that you don't realize. When you start dreaming and things like that too. A lot of that's just a message from yourself trying to tell you something, or like it feels like you go into like these dreamlike states, and it feels like it's real, but it's not real.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, in the work that I do, it's not uncommon for some people to spontaneously go into past lives.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of skeptics around that. And I totally understand the skepticism. I've had clients, particularly male clients, that seem to be a little bit more skeptical of past lives and parallel lives.
Yeah.
And they've asked me, how do I know that this isn't made up? Or how do I know that this isn't a movie that I've watched and I'm remembering? And for me, it's irrelevant, really. Take it as a metaphor. If your
Yeah.
subconscious mind has created this metaphor for your safety, right? Maybe because whatever happened in your childhood is too scary to look at, or your childlike mind had to create a story around it, then look at it as a metaphor for what it's trying to reveal to you, what information it's trying to bring to your attention so that you can break that pattern and create a new one.
Yeah, it's funny you say past lives, because I had a guest on that we were talking about that. She said she had a case where a cop had an issue where he had a fear of needles, but couldn't figure out what the deal was. Like he'd faint, but it turned out in a past life that he had actually had been executed by lethal injection, which like right there set me up. I'm like, now I'm curious more about past life because
Mhm.
now, like, I want to know how I find out about my past lives, if I have any. It might explain some things, you know. And then
Yeah.
she also had the principle theory that, we choose our parents for certain reasons. Like, we
Mhm.
chose these parents in this life to give us these experiences to basically shape ourselves in the future, kind of thing. Do you agree with that idea?
I absolutely do agree. I believe in soul contracts. I believe that our soul
That
signed
that was
up
another thing
to.
too. Soul contracts was another thing she brought up as well, because I was curious about that when she started talking to me about it. And
Mhm.
it was fascinating that that's what you're saying, because I'm like, man, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we were born to exactly the parents that we chose for a specific reason. We were born in exactly the body, the gender, the race that for a specific reason. And again, at the time in history that we needed to come, so that there are certain things that we are able to do, able to be trailblazers of, able to break and reset for ourselves. So everything serves a purpose. And I think that there's something really empowering at seeing it that way, that everything serves a purpose rather than this is just my fate, or this is my bad luck that I had those parents, or that I have this body, or that I was born in this race, in this gender. That's all victim mindset.
Hmm.
And there's something really empowering about making it your choice, because now you get to make it your choice how you're going to redirect this life or redirect your experience.
Yeah, yeah. I get that too. I get the whole victim mentality thing. It's like, all these things start happening to you and they're like, why is me? Instead of you looking at it from what can I do to change these situations? Because a lot of those situations you can get yourself out of if you really just kind of analyze what it is you're dealing with at the time, like, different things just come at you and it's like you have two choices. Either you could sit there and feel guilty for yourself, or you can do something about these problems and try and get past all these issues and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to like faith and everything else like that, a lot of people are just like, well, show me proof. I'm like, what more proof do you need? There's books,
Your
there's
life
all these
is proof. Yeah.
accountabilities. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, show me. Okay, well, actually, I'd like to. The one thing I watched that really started changing my mind is I watched CNN had done this thing on Jesus, and they had talked about him in great detail, like these different things. I'm like, how are you going to make up anything of this stuff that's going on? These are actual accounted events that people are talking about. Someone fitting this description of this person was there in this time in history, and it's all recorded in these books. I get the Bible changes depending on what version you're reading, but when it comes
Mm.
down to it, it's still the same thing. It's still the Bible the way you look at it. The stories may have changed a little bit the way they're told, but it's still Jesus was an actual person. Like you could see based on history that he was in these places, and it's hard to say no, he wasn't.
And all the religious books have
Hmm.
the same characters, even though there's newer or older
Yeah,
um, scripts, right? But they're all historical books. Of course, the translation has changed.
yeah.
Sometimes in the way that things are taught to us, there might be a little bit of distortion, but there's a common thread running
Hmm.
through each and every single religion. There's a common thread running through each and every single ancient practice as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and also it's always one god, or what are the entities, one thing,
Mm.
unlike, like the Indians and the Egyptians who thought of many different gods, and the Greeks and everything thought of, but it was still the same concept. And the idea is that something higher power above us is in response to these different things. Like the Greeks basically broke it all down to different things, like, love, and then Zeus was the king of the gods. And then if you look at like Indians, they had like, like Ra was the sun, and stuff like that, and all those kind of things that just kind of like, it's so fascinating to see how, everybody perceives it, but the same thing is there's something above that is leading us to believe that, there's a higher power in general. It doesn't matter what it is, it's all the same concept though.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And this is where faith really comes into it. So the three pillars of our transformation are level number one, which is accessible to absolutely everybody, and that is knowledge.
Hmm.
Information is available. We can all have access to exactly the same information. Then the second level through devotion is someone who commits to going deeper into this experience or into their own self-actualization journey, and that's where they study it, that's where they receive mentorship and guidance and support, and that's where they start to embody the teachings, they start to embody the practices. And
Yeah.
then the third pillar is faith. And I almost say that when you are at that level where you've already embodied the work, you're almost faithless, because you don't need to have, there's no room for doubt when it's
Yeah.
a part of your beingness. Just as we know that tomorrow there's going to be another day, we don't doubt it. We don't need to have faith or trust that tomorrow is going to be another day. We know it in the cells of our being that tomorrow there's going to be another day. So imagine getting to that third pillar of absolute divine faith and being completely trustless, because you're in your beingness so wholly and completely.
Yeah. And that, and I get that completely. And I think that's what scares a lot of people, is just giving away that trust, because so many people feel like they feel like a lot of things are really deceptive, but it's based on all these false narratives and things they see on the internet and all these other places they're seeing, instead of just, kind of just accepting things. Like, it's like,
Mhm,
yeah, I accept Jesus, but I don't sit there and do like half these, oh, everything you do is a sin. Like, I'm like, I understand we're all going to make mistakes. We're all human by nature. Things are going to happen.
mm,
It's how you look at it is what it really comes down to. Like, are you going to be negative or could you be positive? You know what I mean? Every choice you have has a decision to make from there. Are you going to do this or are you going to do that? Are you going to follow the angel or are you going to follow the devil? That whole kind of theory of those old cartoons where you see them like sitting on the shoulders, one telling you one thing, one telling you another thing, kind of like that.
absolutely. And I truly do believe that we're all equally capable of being good, just
Hmm.
as we're all equally capable of being bad. It's just, where is your preference?
Yeah.
Where you naturally choose to act and be and think and feel. And that will ultimately define you. Your actions define you, not your beliefs, not your
Yeah.
so-called faith. It is
Yeah.
who you are being. And that's really what Christ is for us. Christ is an example of someone who was being his highest self, someone who was being and living his soul path. He was the embodiment of someone who is completely faithless, because he is so wholly and completely in his being.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good point there, and I think that's what's, like I said, I think that's what scares a lot of people, is giving that control up. Like, you don't have to worry about anything. You're just right to that level. Like you
Mhm.
said, if there's already going to be a next day. We already know that. We already can tell that. But I think that's the part that really worries people, is that sense of like, well, I have no longer have control of what I'm about to get into, and it's kind of plays hand in hand with like anxiety a lot of times too, if you think about it, because like people freak out, they'll start freaking out, and like it's like having anxiety. Like you start having those thoughts racing through your head, like, oh no, I've got to give up this control, I'll be faithless. But at the same time, like, they start worrying about the what ifs and things like that.
Well, that's really the opposite of having absolute faith, isn't it? Anxiety is a lack of trust or a lack
Yeah.
of faith, particularly in the future.
Hmm.
So it's that worst case scenario little loop that we get
Yeah.
stuck in, the what ifs. And I really like and appreciate the Stoic Greek philosophers' approach of this, that what will be will be. Like, you don't actually have control over anything, but what you do have absolute control of is how you perceive it and how
Hmm.
you respond to it. Those are the only things, fact, that you have control over. As in life circumstances, there's way too many variables for you to need to want to control all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But
Mhm,
there's that power hungry need that we want to control things. Like, a lot of people get corrupt with power. They want to control everything, and it's just that's just the nature of most people. Some people are just
mhm,
there like the but the funny thing is that when people like to throw around the word narcissism a lot of times, and honestly, one guest I had talked to, she said that everybody is technically narcissistic already. Now, how
Mhm.
far up you go and how far down you go is the same thing as what you're just saying. It depends what path you're choosing. Do you choose to be more and fall under that category, or do you choose to stray away from it? It really depends on your choice.
Yeah. And, this is something that I was actually saying to a client of mine this morning, when she was going into her little anxiety loop of am I liked? Am I nice? Why am I so nice? And why do I let myself be a doormat? And I said to her, what is true for everyone is that everyone's world revolves around
Hmm.
themselves.
Yeah.
Everyone's world revolves around themselves and how things impact them and how
Yeah.
things make them feel. So when you understand that your whole world is you, now you can start to uh, detach meaning from experiences and detach meaning from things that are affecting you, quote unquote, you, because they affect you because you let them affect you. They impact or influence your future because you give them that power.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. I have that same feeling sometimes too. Like my thoughts will start racing and I'll give into them sometimes. And it's like
Mhm.
then I have to snap myself back to reality and be like, yo, hold up, wait a minute, let's think about this. When I start to honestly start thinking about it, it's like it's kind of silly because it's like think about what you're thinking about, man. It's not happening. Like you're creating these events in your head and they start cycling and go into that vicious cycle of just completely whirling. And then it's like sometimes I just say stop out loud for no reason, and people start looking at me weird. But it's because I'm telling myself, just stop,
Yeah,
stop giving
it's
into
a
this stuff
pattern interrupt.
because
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll snap my fingers when my mind is racing. I'll snap my fingers and just bring myself back here. Like, wake up, you're here. You're not
yeah,
there.
yeah, and it's really what it comes down to because I've had it so bad sometimes where it feels like you're in like a endless wormhole. You're looking up, you're stuck in this spot, and there's nothing but darkness around you, but you can see reality. And you're trying to grab for reality, you can't get it. I think it's when it's been the worst, but now I've got it under control a little more. I've got different tools
Yeah,
in place. I have like an anxiety journal I use that it basically refocuses my mind and things like that. I've used that a friend of mine gave me to try. And I was like, all right, let me give it a shot. So like if I ever start getting those thoughts and things like that, and I've tried it all, and I think it's after I accepted Jesus though, it's like everything just started falling into place. Like things just started falling into place. I just started talking to him. And that's the thing with other people. Like it's like, just talk to him. I mean, he's always listening, things like that.
yeah, that's exactly true. I mean, for me as well, I call it higher self, having a
Hmm.
relationship with your higher self. Your higher self is God, right? That
Hmm.
relationship needs, like any other relationships, needs for you to cultivate it, needs for you to dialogue, not only call them up when you need something, but to
Yeah.
be in dialogue with them all the time so that you don't feel disconnected, so that you don't feel alone, so that you don't let yourself work your way into that wormhole. So absolutely, connection with higher self is the alpha and the omega of everything, of the philosophy of life. If you don't have a relationship with a higher power, then it's very easy for all these external influences to pull you out of your center.
Yeah.
And there's so
Yeah.
much going on in the world, that we can allow ourselves to have that wobble and get lost in politics and get lost in finances and get lost in all these problems that aren't actually a part of us. They're just variables happening around us.
Yeah, that's so very true though. You think about it because your financial issues are another variable, and all that other stuff just kind of plays part into everything its own, and things like that. So, let me ask you a question though. When you developed rapid alignment therapy, what did people say to you at first when you tried to explain it to them? Because I always think when trying to explain something to you, it's like Galileo trying to explain to me that the sun revolves around not everything revolves around us. We revolve around the sun. That whole principle of trying to convince people, hey, listen, this is something new. And people don't like new things now. Remember now, they don't like a lot of new things. So they're like, wait, hold on now. We don't know if this is a scam. What
Mm.
kind of responses did you get in the beginning?
I have to say that I'm really grateful that God has always sent me the exact right people. So I haven't really had any resistance. I've had a lot of
Yeah,
curiosity
yeah. Well,
around,
well, curiosity
well,
is always good though.
how is it relevant to me? How could it help
Yeah,
me fix this particular thing or that particular thing, or how can it help me with my finances? How can it help me with my relationship? So it's just them really looking for a bridge to understand how
Yeah.
alignment can help them with a particular pain point that they have. But I haven't had any resistance, which is why I know that this is my soul path. This is the work that I'm here to do, because it's been divinely guided. I've come to it in such a natural, guided way as well, and now I'm
Hmm.
teaching it to other people. And so I have a certification as well. So I'm teaching it to other people and helping them to facilitate those same incredible transformations for them, for their clients. So I can see the beautiful ripple effect that it's having, which
Yeah.
in the beginning when I started this work, I thought that I'm here, very egotistically, I thought I'm here to change the lives of a million people. And it was only through going deeper into my own embodiment that I saw that it doesn't start and end with me. It starts with me and it just keeps going and going and growing. So I've been very blessed to find that people are quite open and quite curious to trying it.
Well, it's awesome though that people have accepted it so well because like a lot of people aren't don't like new things, like I was saying, and same thing with this podcast too. Like it was funny because I just started it and then everything just started flowing into place, and then all these
Mhm.
new people started coming into my life and just
Mm,
introducing me to new things, and it took off. Like this thing has a mind of its own, and it feels
mm,
so right. And it's ever since I accepted faith in my life, it's just everything just started just stacking up, and I'm just like, whoa, because when I started this, it was an idea. Then I got offered a network spot where I'm now right off the bat before I have done anything. I just put the concept out there. Hey, what do you think about this? Kind of like you were doing, people were curious. Sure, why not? And I explained the concept. Well, there was a gentleman named Tom that actually is a co-owner, co-founder of the station. He had reached out to me and I told him, like, hey, I got nothing recorded here, like, I don't even know how this thing's gonna go. And I was like, I took a
mm,
leap of faith, and ever since then, it's just been building and building and building. And it's just like I deal with a lot of imposter syndrome at times, because I'm just so
mhm,
like shocked how fast this thing is taking off. I think between
mhm.
now and October, I have 137 different interviews I have to do.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's crazy to say though, because you think about it, when I started this thing, it hit December like at one time slot because normally I do a Monday time show, but now I'm trying to expand it more to get more people, more attention from other people that are not like just strictly Mondays, things like that. And everybody says the same thing. Oh, I appreciate what you're doing, but all I'm doing is just like you are. I'm just
Showing
you know what I
up.
mean? I'm just here. I'm giving people a space to say something, and then everybody's story just seems to be just spreading out to other people. And if you could change just one person's life, that's it. That's all that matters because that one
Mhm.
person will go tell five other people, and those five people, the whole word of mouth thing comes into play as well.
Yeah.
And it's great to hear that people are so excited about me just giving them that space to be heard. And I think a lot of
Mm,
times that's what it is. It's that curiosity of like, hey, what are you doing? And when I tell people what I'm doing, they're like, "Oh, damn, I want to be a part of this thing. I like this idea." And all
mm,
the people I've met along the way, it's so cool though. Like I don't think if I would have looked at myself about a year ago, I never would have thought this thing would have been like it was now because this was a
mm.
leap of faith. I just took a leap of faith, went with this, and then ever since then, it's just exploded off the map.
Yeah. May I offer a little bit of a perception shift for you?
Hmm.
So it's not really that you have imposter syndrome, it's that you have a low tolerance for letting things be easy.
Yeah,
And maybe because the speed at which things are moving, shows me that this is divinely guided as
yeah.
well, that this is like a blessed path that you're walking.
I
So,
honestly feel that way too, though. Honestly, not to cut you
Mhm,
off, I do feel that way though. Now that I've been thinking about it for the last few months and things like that. But someone else told me it was like imposter syndrome because I can't accept the fact that this thing is taking off like it is. But at the same time, it just feels so right. Every time I hit record on
mhm,
these interviews, it just feels even better every single time because it's like I could have the worst day possible, but I got to
mhm,
come record somebody. I'm always picking myself up to come do it because I know that if when I do it, it's going to feel amazing because I know that somebody out there is going to get some value from what I'm doing. And it feels so divinely great because it's like, it feels like that's the path he's leading me on. And so
yeah.
far, I'm enjoying the path. Trust me, I'm loving it. All the new
Mhm,
people I'm meeting, it gets to meet people like yourself and other individuals I've met along the way. It's been great because I could
mhm,
take away certain things from other people
and things like that. But and maybe that is what it is. Maybe I just don't like it being easy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's also part of the collective brainwashing. We've been told that you have to
Yeah.
work hard, that anything that is worthy of doing requires blood, sweat, and tears. That's the normal narrative. So when we strike gold and we
Hmm.
keep finding gold and we keep finding more gold and more veins of gold, it's like we almost expect that it's going to run out at some point. We expect to hit a rock somewhere, or we expect to hit a dead end. And that's part of the collective brainwashing that we've been taught. But what if things get easier? What if things get to get better? What if every year of my life gets to get better and easier and I get healthier and wealthier? I think that's
Exactly.
a much more favorable alternative to lean into and to love.
Yeah, I agree. And like
Mm.
I said, it feels like it every day I click record. And it's like every day I keep looking at my calendar and I just keep seeing this thing just keeps growing and growing and growing. I'm just like, whoa. It's
I
like
love
I love it too. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie.
that.
It's probably the greatest joy of my life. I love it so much, you know. And the funny thing is, my wife at first she was like, "Well, what do you? This is how do you know this is gonna do anything? How do you know until you don't try?" At that point, and then now she's even like, now she's considering even coming on and doing an episode with me or so of things like that because she's really strong into the whole mental health thing, and she's like, "Hey, be careful how you approach this." And it's great because I feel like God has put these people in place to kind of guide me along the way. Like she's very
Mm,
good at when it comes to those stuff to hey, be careful what you say of these certain things. And she's
mm.
constantly, giving me criticism of things, but not in like a negative way. It's like, hey, what did you
Feedback.
gain from that interaction? Like say I do
Mm,
something, say something stupid. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel real good? No?
mm,
Okay, well let's not do that. Let's learn that. And she's always constantly pushing me because she wants me to put out the best content possible. And I love it
mm,
though. It's great. Ever since, like I said, ever since I accepted fate, everything just started falling into place. And it's
mhm.
I don't know what to tell people. Like if you don't give it a shot, then I'm sorry that's the way you feel about it. But you never know until you try, you know? Or what's the saying going? You miss all the shots you don't take, basically.
100%, 100%. And I think that's many people's biggest fear is fear of failure.
Yeah.
But in the work that I do, with the subconscious mind, it's a double-edged sword. We think that it's actually fear of failure, but
Hmm.
at the same time, the fear of success also coexists there because I don't know the successful version of me, because I don't know if my relationships will change if I become successful.
Yeah.
So we stop ourselves from doing the thing that is calling us, the thing that is magnetizing us, because we're scared both of failing and of succeeding.
I can agree with that 100%. I think that's really what it comes down to. It's like, what if I get too big? Everybody
Mm,
says don't forget the small people, and it's like I'm
yeah,
not. I'm just a normal guy enjoying what I do,
mm,
and just talking about just the subject that no one wants to talk about, and I feel that exactly what you just said. It's just like I feel like it's just everything just kind of being magnetized to me. And like I
mhm,
attract certain people, then certain people fall off, and it's like, well, okay, well,
mm,
that just means they weren't meant to be here then. If they fall off, okay, cool. Don't get
exactly.
upset by what I'm talking about. If you don't like what I have to say, you're more than welcome to
Mm,
click on. There's plenty other things to check out, But
mm,
at the end of the day, I don't let people bother me. Like I don't let anything stop me. From when I started this thing, I told my wife the same thing. I said, I'm not giving up on this thing. I'm doing this. That's it.
mm,
If it fails, it fails. At this point, I can't live in the what if is I like to say what if, but I do agree with the we're afraid to fail mentality. It's like, I don't want to live in the what if scenario. What if I would have done this?
yeah,
And
coulda,
I
woulda,
feel
coulda.
right. And it's
Mm,
just it's like I don't want it to be a what if. So, that's why I'm pushing for us to talk more about the subject of mental health because I feel like our system's terrible. Let's be honest here. We all know it is. It ain't no big secret. It's horrible. Like all these different things, school shootings, all these massive, people committing suicide, things like that. It's like, what more could we have done? Well, we don't know. People don't know. And when you talk about certain subjects, they just shut down instantly. They're like, oh, well, I don't want to talk
mhm,
about that thing. It's the same thing with faith.
mhm,
They'll be like, oh, I don't want to talk about that all of a sudden because, someone had done something to sour them that makes them
mhm,
feel like, hey, well, no, no, that's okay. Reflect away. I don't want that kind of thing. And
yeah,
I think it makes me laugh a lot of times because I used to be that person. I was very, very against
mhm,
everything. And now I'm just like, I used to laugh at people to talk about faith and things like that. I used to make stupid comments and things like that. And now I reflect on it. And it's like, wow, what an asshole I was. Like, wow. Like, why would I was like, but at the same time, I wasn't as didn't have as much knowledge as I have now. So it's like now that I know these things and I get to meet such
Mhm.
people as yourself and other people that educate me on different things, I get to
Mm.
learn more stuff as I go. So it just makes me feel greater because now I'm like, damn, now I have a whole new section of things I know I can discuss with people. Hey, by the way, I have this guest Anastasia. I talk about everybody I have on this show. You know,
Mm.
I've had a guy come on here, Brian, great guy. He's working on teaching children how to regulate their feelings. He's working on an app basically, help them regulate
Mhm.
their emotions and things like that. He had sat here on the
Mhm.
show in the same box you're sitting in and had told us that morning he had suicidal ideations that morning. And I don't say this to shame Brian at all because it took a lot of strength for him to come out and say this live on a podcast while we're recording live to tell us about these feelings he was having deep down inside. And hats off to him, honestly, Brian. If you hear
Mhm.
this, hats off to you, man. Like with no disrespect, you're probably the strongest person I've ever met. For you to share that
Mhm.
with all of us, because we don't even know each other. Me and Brian have never met each other to this point, but it always
Yeah.
seems like people I run into tell me things that they wouldn't normally tell somebody. And I don't know if
Mm.
maybe it's just the way I've learned things, but I always have a way to connect with people, which is great because that's a lot of people have told me before I started this podcast. Same thing. There was a preacher I had talked to that used to come in where I work, and he was talking to me. And Pastor White would always tell me, he's like, Pete, has anyone ever told you you have this uncanny ability to connect with people on a deep level? I'm like, no,
Mm.
I'm just genuine. That's all it is. To me, I just feel genuine. I'm just being real. I can have a conversation with anybody, honestly. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that you have that beautiful open aura that people uh, and I think that that's maybe one of the reasons that your podcast is doing as well as it's doing,
yeah.
because genuine conversations with someone who it had genuinely has an open heart, and you're inviting other people who also want to share and also want to be open. So it's a match made in heaven. It really, really is a match made in heaven.
You know, and
Um,
that's what a lot of people say too. They're like, I like
mm,
my conversational style. How it's just a conversation,
mm,
it's not really an interview. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm like, you can watch 1,000 interviews, but they don't go so well. When you have a casual conversation with somebody,
mhm.
the conversation goes to another level. It's like it's just like two friends having a chat that haven't seen each other in a while.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And those are the conversations, I love how there's no time, distance, and space when you meet someone that is in alignment and
Hmm.
they're traveling in the same direction as you, it feels as if you've known them for years. This is
Yeah,
like old friends meeting up, just catching up and sharing what they've learned along the way. With regards to suicide ideation, because I do want to come back to that, I think this is
yeah,
something that's quite important for your audience to hear as well.
definitely.
What I do know about suicide ideation is on a psychological level, it's very normal for adolescents to experience this kind of like fetishization or this fantasy of ending their life. And that's
Yeah.
because there's a spiritual meaning to it. That there's a part of you that needs to die in order for the adult version of you to be rebirthed. So if we can view it as something that isn't scary or something that isn't a red flag, but rather it's your spirit calling to something, some part of your identity that
Hmm.
needs to be put uh, put to rest so that your new identity can be birthed from this place. It's almost like your mind is making a shift from an old version of you that no longer needs to exist into a higher vibration, to a higher version of you.
I absolutely love that. I think that sounds like to me, that's what it sounds like. You know, it's like something inside of
Mm,
you is trying to, or whatever's trying to pull it away from you. So quote unquote wants that's what it's talking about. It's not talking about yourself. It's talking about whatever
mhm,
that thing is that it's locking onto that needs to go to build
mm,
to shape you as a person. As
yeah,
you know, in adolescence, a lot of times it's a lot of times it's people getting bullied too much and things like that.
mm,
Somebody's always got to blame something for the reason why they do something. But at the end of the day, you're making that choice. Let's call it
mhm,
what it is. You're making that choice. That decision affects more people than you realize. I don't think people think about that enough. Like when it gets to that point, I know a lot of people say when they get to that point, something stops them. Like, one person said it was that they saw their child come in and saw the eyes. Yeah, because you've got this person that looks up to you, and you're on this roller coaster, and they don't understand. They're not emotionally developed enough to understand exactly what you're thinking, but they have some idea and some level of what's going on. And I know a lot of people don't realize it, but kids can read the room. They know what's up. Like, they may not be too old to tell you, but they can tell a lot of things about what's going in the room. And a lot of them, that's what they'll do. They'll copy what they see
Mhm.
later in life. So, and it's always crazy, because when you talk about suicide, people shut down. Like, they get so scared. Like, the
Mhm.
fear, like the talk of death just alone scares people to death. And I don't understand what the problem is. It's a real conversation to have. Like, death happens. People
Yeah,
pass away.
absolutely. Absolutely. And as someone that has flirted with the idea many, many times,
Yeah.
particularly uh, in my low points in life, um, I think it's just pure life force energy that wants to keep you alive,
Yeah.
because it's different thinking about it, and it's a completely different uh, thing to actually complete the act.
Yeah.
For me, the last time, I would have to say that it's guilt that kept me alive, because I couldn't do that to my mother.
Yeah.
We had just lost my dad, and she was, 6 years deep into her grief still with the loss of my dad. So I couldn't be the one um, that did that to her. And I do think that God will use other people, or God will use the faces of people we love to remind us why we're here and what we still have to do. I read a story recently about a guy that wanted to end his life, and then the electricity went out, or something really benign like that. And because he had to come out of the building, he got invited there on the street while they were waiting. The fire department came or whatever to come and check the building. And while he was waiting there on the street with his neighbors, some of his neighbors invited him to a soup kitchen because they were going to be giving food to the homeless.
Yeah.
So he went there, and that almost like reignited his reason to live, was to help others, to serve others. And it's something as simple as the lights going out in his apartment.
Yeah. And it's like, explain what it is, but sometimes you can't explain what that stuff is. I know a lot of people want, oh, I want proof. Okay, what proof do you want at this point? I mean, something caused you not to be there and caused you to
Mm-hmm.
interact with these people.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that to me then. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's funny to listen to people challenge things, but at the same time, like, if they don't have a valid challenge, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, you listen to these people and you're like, what are you talking about? Like, you make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are just natural antagonisms, and just like the
Yeah.
antagonists about things are just like the cause, just kind of like to rile things up just because they like that. And it's like, I tell people the
Mm-hmm.
same thing all the time. It's like, don't let somebody get to you. Like, it's a game. Anything you do, like, I do a lot of customer service now. It's a game. End of the day, it's a game. They're playing. It's a game of psychological warfare. Who's gonna win? Are you gonna give
Mm-hmm.
into give into what they want? Or are you gonna just do yourself and not let them get to you? And then, it's the same thing with anything else you look at. It's like, especially with suicide, it's like, are you gonna give into it? Or are you gonna stand up for yourself and say, no, I don't want to do these things. I don't want to do this. Just because this part of me is saying to do it doesn't mean I'm going to give in to what that wants me to do.
Yeah. And whatever challenges you're facing, if we look at reincarnation, whatever challenges you're facing, you're just going to be sent back to deal with them again. So
Yeah.
it's not going to get any easier if you cop out this time. So why not just stick with the Earth School and try and learn the lesson that there is to learn here, so that you can come out free and liberated from this challenge, this pattern that keeps repeating itself.
Yeah, and I always say that I don't like, let's make it a good statistic, not a bad statistic, because when you look
Mhm.
at the stats from what I was looking at, men are more likely to succeed versus women are more likely to talk about it. Like you said, it's
Mhm.
difference between those two now. Guys are
Yeah.
more often, and then women are here, but they're talking about it. Men aren't talking about it because the whole archaic
Think
principle of,
men succeed just because they're stronger. I really think that it's a physical strength thing.
yeah.
And also maybe because men don't talk about it as much.
You hit it right on the
Boom.
head right there. Boom. We don't talk
Mhm.
about it enough. That's the problem because a lot of us were programmed at younger ages that we're not supposed to talk about our feelings. We're men. We're supposed to be these big macho alpha males. We have to puff our chests out and do all these things. And it's like the minute you show weakness of that sort, then you're weak or you're a wuss or you're a girl or you're a crybaby. It's like, no, it's called having emotions. I'm human. I'm not a robot here, and
Mhm.
it's like I talk to several different people on a daily basis, and some of it's just so funny to listen to them. They have these like ideal systems. Oh, well, women need to belong in the kitchen. I'm like, I don't know, man. You should think about some of these things women have invented, man. I don't think you
Mhm.
want to be there because if they weren't here, you would have some of these things you don't realize. And it's just funny to listen to them because I'm just listening to what they're saying, and I just laugh because it's like you can't get mad at somebody that's stuck in their ways because that's what they were taught when they were younger. You know what I mean? We got to understand there's a lot of generational gaps that go on. Things were
Yeah.
different versus but when I'm young, and then say somebody's like in their 60s, they obviously went through something totally different then.
Mhm.
For them to have that mindset, and it's like I understand that and I respect it, but it's
Yeah.
okay to change your theories about how things are. Like it's a lot. It's not the same thing anymore. Women aren't just staying at home and staying in the kitchen anymore. It's just not how that goes. It's like now a lot of
Mhm.
women do a lot of great things that people don't want to recognize because they're women. And it's just like, guys, come on now. I'll admit to you right now, I'm reading a book. It's called The Mansectomy I've Always Wanted. And
Mhm.
100% probably not for the target audience of men, but it's so good because it's somebody that's telling you their story about breast cancer and the mindset she's in. And she's actually going to be a guest on this show next week. And she
Amazing.
she sent me the copy of the book to read. And I was like, she said, Pete, you want to read it? Hell yeah, let's read it. Why not? Why not? Let's check it out. Once again, I don't want to live in the what if. What if I didn't read it? I read 55 pages right off the bat the first day I got the book. I was so excited. I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, let me check this out. Why not? And it was so interesting the way she lays it out, though. She has like
Yeah.
different poems to describe her different emotions she's dealing with at the same time, and it
Mhm.
was really good so far. I still have to finish it, but so far I'm actually quite enjoying it, even though it doesn't apply to me. This is a
Mm.
story memoir about somebody who has breast cancer. Like my point to people is that, guys, it's okay to read these things. It's not going to hurt you. You may better understand a lot of things from other people and the different mindset that people deal with in those situations.
Yeah, I've read some incredible books that were, just for men. The Mask of Masculinity by
Hmm.
Lewis Howes, that's a fantastic book, as well as The Awakened Man by
Yeah,
Aaron. I forgot his name. The Embodied Man. Sorry, The Embodied
yeah,
Man. And then David Deada's The Awakened Man as well. Fantastic,
yeah.
fantastic book. And, we're all human at the end of the day. And when we look at polarity,
Hmm.
we all have a masculine side, we all have a feminine side.
Yeah.
So when we can understand how those different sides are affected and how we can integrate them, it makes us more well rounded, balanced human beings.
Yeah, so too, because you think about it, females operate different than males do on an emotional scale too. Because I have
Mhm.
3 daughters I was raising on my own before they moved in with their mom. Like during that time period of when I had them, it's a whole other story because now I'm having to learn things that I didn't know I ever knew about. I'm learning about different female
Mhm.
anatomy things. Things that you guys deal with on it. In the different cycles of things, and it's like all these things that. Society would tell me I'm too manly to know. I'm having to learn these things because I'm not giving a choice. But I'm trying to
Mhm.
do the best I can because I don't know any better. Like I'm trying to raise 3 girls on my own. I have no idea
Mhm.
anything about it, and girls are more emotional than guys. So
Mhm.
it taught me a lot, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. So when the opportunity came to read this book, I was like, heck yeah, send it to me. Why not? I even love
Mhm.
the fact that she signed it for me, and I was like, hell yeah, even better.
Mhm.
That's right there. That's gonna be an item cherished forever. And it's
Amazing.
and I'll tell people I read the book. I've told people I'm reading this book. I'm like, yeah, I'm reading this book. It's actually really good. And I don't read a
Mhm.
lot of books, honestly. Sometimes it's hard to catch my attention, but once I get into something I really like, I'll start really going into it, and things like that. And this book it was just really interesting because it's like you get a perspective of what it's like to deal with these things, and then what her mindset is and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like I see a lot of these profiles that I go on when I'm on that site where we have met through and it says something
Mhm.
like female, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want you for sure because there's 2 sides to every conversation. Why not bring that
Mhm.
person in? I'm not going to shy away anybody. I want them to come on here and talk to me because I want to know more. Like teach me. I want to know.
Mhm.
Like tell me some things I don't know that I should know. and it's just I have tons of audience members here, female, male. I'm not scared to bring anybody on this show. I don't care what they say. Oh, and my most of my stuff is directed towards females. Okay, well, why can't you teach me as well? Like the minute somebody says that, I'm like, okay, come on now. I'm asking you to come on this show to teach me and educate me, and obviously appeal to some of the ladies in the audience, things like that. But I want to know these things. Like, I'm a generally curious person. I'm inviting you to come here to talk to me because I want to know more about what it is that you're teaching people, and especially when it says author in the title. I'm like, yes, bring it on. Let's go. Because I love meeting new authors all the time because it's so interesting. Because when it comes to books, the perspectives are so different. Like Stephen King was different from, say, God, I can't think of the other ones now. Yeah, I like Alfred Hitchcock. They both had different views, but they're all in the same genre kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like Stephen King had some wild theories out there, and Alfred Hitchcock was just a legend.
Absolutely. And there's something to learn from everyone. I think some of the most interesting conversations are people that I've met from like completely different generations,
Yeah.
from people that are in their 70s, 80s. I mean,
hmm
my grandfather taught me so much, and he grew up in a very, very different uh, period and in poverty, in a very different reality to
Yeah.
what I was raised in. And then even speaking now to like Gen Zs, it's incredible like how much more awakened they are and how much more informed they are than when we were, because remember they were raised with the internet.
hmm
We didn't have that when we were their age. That came much later into our life. So I think there's so much to learn from everybody. And
Exactly.
if you keep your mind and your heart open, like life is a school. You will keep learning, you will keep evolving, you will keep growing.
No, I agree 100% with you. All right, Anastasia, as we get ready to wrap up, did you want to go ahead and plug your website? I know you have a website. I've got all of it in the description down below, but if you want to go ahead and tell people where they can find you, in case somebody's more curious about learning more about you or they want to reach out to you or anything like that.
Absolutely. I would like to invite all your listeners to come and experience my 3-day soul manifestation code. It's a 3-day free event that every day I take you through certain practices and tools,
hmm
so that you can understand any unconscious blocks that you're carrying or patterns that are no longer serving you, and then also how to work through them. And that's just a really great introduction to alignment therapy and my teaching style, so people will understand a little bit more about the work that I do with people to help them align with their soul path. Because for me, that's our purpose here. Everyone's purpose is to get in alignment with their soul path so they can have and do and be anything that their hearts and soul desires.
Okay, and so where would they go to get to that? Would they just go to your website?
I have a bit.ly, so it's a short link. It's bit.ly /soul manifestation code.
Okay.
So otherwise, yeah, if you're following me on Instagram, you'll see it in my bio. If you're
hmm
following my website, it's linked all over the place.
Okay, well, that's good to know then. Like I said, if you want to send it to me, or else I'll go find it. You said it's in your Instagram profile. I'll make sure to put it in the
I'll
description of
send
the
it to
video.
you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Mm,
and I'll make sure to put it in the video because I've got all your social links and all your website and everything. Because I'm thinking, okay, proactive ahead of time. How can I get people involved? Like, all right, just in case they want to come check you out and they're listening somewhere and they can't visually look at it right away, they can come back and find the video and see, okay, this is where I find her at and things like that.
mhm,
So, well, I do
absolutely.
appreciate you coming though. Like I said, it was great. I had a great time. I think it was very fun. I enjoyed the conversation. Honestly, I love having new people come on here. And I feel like, everybody's put in my path for a reason. So I feel like we were destined to meet anyway. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
And
for having me, and thank you for making this show. I love your vision, and I'm in full support of it.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, guys, I'm Pete versus anxiety. I'm pretty much everything: Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram, everything else you can think of under the sun. And as I always like to say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you can do can save somebody's life, or you can even save them to make their day. Sorry, geez Louise. I'm Pete versus
Mhm.
anxiety signing off saying, hey, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health is today.